Welcome back, coin enthusiasts. Today, we are diving deep into the fascinating world of Washington quarter dollars and exploring the top 5 most valuable Washington quarters across different years, mint marks, and conditions. These coins are not just pieces of currency, they represent history, artistry, and sometimes, incredible investment value for collectors. Let's get started. First up, the 1969 Washington quarter dollar with no mint mark, found in a rusty or heavily corroded condition. At first glance, this coin might look like just another old, damaged quarter pulled from circulation. But as many collectors know, even common coins can become interesting when age, condition, and unusual surface changes come into play. In this video, we'll explore the full story behind this coin, where it came from, why it looks the way it does, how collectors view damaged examples, and what kind of auction market value it can realistically bring in US dollars. The 1969 Washington quarter is part of the long-running Washington quarter series that began in 1932 to honor the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. By 1969, the United States Mint had already transitioned away from silver coinage, and quarters were being struck in a copper-nickel-clad composition. These coins consist of an outer layer of copper-nickel bonded to a pure copper core, giving them durability for everyday use in commerce. A 1969 quarter without a mint mark was produced at the Philadelphia Mint, which at that time did not use a mint mark on its coins. Millions of these quarters were struck, making them extremely common in normal circulated condition, and they were widely used across the country during the late 1960s and 1970s. The 1969 Washington quarter features John Flanagan's classic portrait of George Washington on the obverse, facing left, with the word Liberty above his head and the national motto "In God We Trust" to the left. The date 1969 appears below the portrait. On the reverse, the coin displays a heraldic eagle with outstretched wings, clutching arrows, with olive branches beneath it, symbolizing both strength and peace. The inscriptions "United States of America" and "E Pluribus Unum" surround the eagle, with quarter dollar at the bottom. In normal condition, these details are sharp and easy to see, but in a rusty or corroded example, many of these features may appear darkened, rough, or partially obscured. One of the most intriguing aspects of a rusty 1969 Washington quarter is the rust itself. Since these quarters are not made of steel, true rust iron oxidation is not supposed to occur. When collectors describe a quarter as rusty, they are usually referring to severe environmental damage, corrosion from moisture and chemicals, or staining caused by long-term exposure to soil, saltwater, or other harsh conditions. In some rare cases, unusual surface corrosion can raise questions about mint errors, such as improper alloy mixtures or plancheck contamination, but the vast majority of rusty-looking quarters are simply environmentally damaged coins. This damage dramatically changes the appearance and texture of the coin, often giving it a dark brown, reddish, or black surface with pitting and roughness. It's important to be honest and realistic. A 1969 Washington quarter with no mint mark is not rare by date alone, and damage such as rust or corrosion generally reduces a coin's value rather than increasing it. Most serious collectors prefer coins in original, undamaged condition, even if they show normal circulation wear. However, damaged coins can still attract a niche audience. Beginner collectors, curiosity buyers, or error specialists may show interest if the corrosion appears unusual or if the coin is marketed as a possible mint anomaly. Still, environmental damage is usually clearly identified by grading services and auction houses, and it prevents the coin from receiving a standard numeric grade. In terms of current market value in dollars, a rusty or heavily corroded 1969 Philadelphia quarter typically has very limited monetary worth. In most cases, these coins sell for face value or just slightly above it, often ranging from $324,000 in casual online listings. In some auctions, visually dramatic or unusually corroded examples might sell for $121,000 if multiple bidders find the appearance interesting. Only in extremely rare situations, such as if the coin is proven to be struck on the wrong metal or shows a legitimate mint error rather than environmental damage, would the value rise significantly, potentially reaching $50 or more. Without such verification, however, expectations should remain modest. For collectors who come across a 1969 Washington quarter in rusty condition, there are a few important tips to keep in mind. First, never attempt to clean the coin, as cleaning can further reduce its value and destroy any remaining originality. Second, examine the coin closely under good lighting and magnification to determine whether the damage is environmental or possibly related to a mint error. Third, if the coin seems unusual enough, consider having it evaluated by a reputable coin dealer or a professional grading service, understanding that most damaged coins will be labeled as environmental damage. Finally, keep realistic expectations and enjoy the coin for its story rather than its financial potential. In conclusion, the 1969 Washington quarter with no mint mark in rusty condition is a perfect example of how a common coin can still spark curiosity and conversation. While it is not rare in the traditional sense and does not command high prices at auction, it represents a piece of everyday American history that has survived decades of circulation and environmental exposure. Next up, the 1973 Washington quarter dollar with the D mint mark, struck at the Denver Mint, examined here in dirty or heavily circulated condition. At first glance, this coin may appear ordinary, but as with many US coins, its story, collector interest, and market value depend on condition, demand, and unique circumstances. In this video, we will explore the background of the 1973 D Washington quarter, discuss its design and features, explain how rarity is judged even in damaged condition, and analyze what this coin realistically sells for at auction in US dollars today. The Washington Quarter series was introduced in 1932 to honor the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth, and by 1973 it had become a well-established part of everyday American commerce. The 1973 quarter was minted during a time of heavy coin circulation in the United States, just after the removal of silver from circulating quarters in 1965. By this point, quarters were struck in a copper-nickel clad composition rather than precious metal, making them practical for mass use rather than long-term hoarding. The Denver Mint produced a very large number of quarters in 1973, identifiable by the small D mint mark on the obverse beneath Washington's portrait. These coins were widely used in daily transactions, which explains why so many surviving examples today are worn, stained, dirty, or damaged. The 1973 D Washington quarter features the classic John Flanagan design, with George Washington's left-facing bust on the obverse and a heraldic eagle with outstretched wings on the reverse. The coin measures 24.3 millimeters in diameter and weighs 5.67 grams, composed of a copper core sandwiched between two layers of copper-nickel alloy. While the design itself is not rare, collectors still examine coins from this year closely for sharpness of detail, especially in Washington's hair, the eagle's feathers, and the lettering. In dirty condition, these details are often obscured by grime, oxidation, scratches, or environmental damage, which greatly affects both visual appeal and value. However, some collectors still seek such coins as placeholders or for educational and bulk collections. In terms of mintage numbers, the 1973 D Washington quarter is not rare. Millions were produced, and many still exist today. However, rarity in numismatics is not only about how many coins were made, but how many survive in a particular condition. While high-grade, uncirculated examples are harder to find, dirty or damaged coins are extremely common. Despite this, there is still modest collector interest in circulated and dirty examples, especially among beginner collectors, roll hunters, and those searching for mint errors such as off-center strikes, double dies, or unusual planchette flaws. In damaged condition, the coin's appeal is usually historical rather than investment-driven, but it still holds a place in the broader Washington Quarter series. When it comes to auction and market value, honesty is essential. A 1973 D Washington quarter in dirty or heavily circulated condition typically sells for face value, which is 25 cents, or slightly above it. In online auctions and coin shop bulk sales, such coins often sell for $431,000 depending on overall eye appeal. In some cases, collectors may pay up to $1 if the coin fills a Dayton Mint set or is part of a larger lot. Only coins with confirmed mint errors or unusually sharp details despite surface dirt can bring higher prices, sometimes ranging from $321,000 or more, but these are exceptions rather than the rule. Without an error or premium condition, dirty examples do not command high auction values. For collectors who come across a dirty 1973 D Washington quarter, the most important advice is do not clean the coin aggressively. Cleaning can permanently damage the surface and reduce even its modest collector value. Instead, store the coin safely and examine it under good lighting and magnification to check for errors or unusual features. Beginners can use this coin to learn grading basics, understand circulation wear, and practice identifying mint marks. If you believe the coin has a genuine mint error, consider having it evaluated by a professional coin dealer or third-party grading service before attempting to sell it. Even common coins can become valuable under the right circumstances. In conclusion, the 1973 Washington quarter with a D mint mark in dirty condition is a fascinating reminder of everyday American history rather than a hidden treasure. While it is not rare in circulated or damaged form and usually carries only face value in today's market, it still plays an important role in the Washington Quarter series. Its true worth lies in education, collection building, and the possibility, however small, of discovering a rare error. Whether you're a beginner collector or simply curious about the coins in your pocket, this quarter shows that every coin has a story, even when its market value remains modest. Next up, the 1966 Washington quarter dollar with no mint mark, especially one found in bad or heavily worn condition. At first glance, a damaged 1966 quarter might seem ordinary or even worthless, But once you understand its background, composition, and place in US coinage history, you'll see why collectors still pay attention to it. In this video, we'll explore the history behind the 1966 Washington Quarter, what makes it unique, how rarity and collector demand work even for coins in poor condition, and most importantly, what this coin can realistically bring at auction in today's market, measured in US dollars. The Washington Quarter was first introduced in 1932 to commemorate the 200th birthday of George Washington. For decades, it was struck in 90% silver, making it popular both as currency and as a store of precious metal. However, by the mid-1960s, rising silver prices caused hoarding and shortages of circulating coins. In response, the US Mint made a historic decision. Beginning in 1965, quarters would no longer contain silver and would instead be made from a copper-nickel clad composition. The year 1966 falls right into this critical transition period. During this time, the US Mint also removed mint marks entirely to discourage collectors from hoarding new coins. As a result, all 1966 Washington quarters have no mint mark, regardless of where they were produced. This unusual policy lasted from 1965 through 1967, making these years especially interesting to collectors. The 1966 Washington Quarter features the familiar portrait of George Washington on the obverse, designed by John Flanagan. Washington faces left, with the inscriptions Liberty and In God We Trust, along with the date 1966. On the reverse, the coin displays a heraldic eagle with outstretched wings, clutching arrows and olive branches, symbolizing both strength and peace. What truly sets this coin apart is its clad composition, consisting of an outer layer of copper nickel bonded to a pure copper core. When the coin is heavily worn or damaged, this copper core may become visible along the edges, giving the coin a distinct two-tone appearance. This feature alone helps collectors quickly identify post-1964 quarters. Even in bad condition, these visual details help tell the story of a major shift in US coinage history. In terms of mintage numbers, the 1966 Washington Quarter is not rare. Hundreds of millions were struck to meet the demands of everyday commerce. However, collector interest doesn't rely solely on low mintage. Coins from historically important periods often attract attention regardless of condition. The 1966 quarter represents the early years of clad coinage and the unusual no-mint mark era, making it appealing to collectors who specialize in transitional coins or complete date sets. In bad conditions such as heavily worn, scratched, corroded, bent, or environmentally damaged, collector demand is naturally lower. Still, there is a steady market for such coins among beginners, bulk buyers, and collectors who need an example to fill a set without paying high premiums. In some cases, damaged coins with unusual wear patterns or striking anomalies can spark niche interest as well. When it comes to auction and market value, honesty is important. A 1966 Washington Quarter in bad condition generally trades close to its face value. In most cases, these coins sell for $431,000 in online auctions, coin shops, or bulk coin lots. If the coin is extremely worn but still identifiable, it may bring around $1 if sold to a collector who needs it for a set. Coins with unusual damage, such as lamination errors, off-center strikes, or dramatic planchette flaws, can sometimes sell for $123,000 or more, depending on the error and buyer interest. However, standard circulation damage alone does not significantly increase value. It's important to remember that this coin has no silver content, so its worth is based entirely on collector demand rather than metal value. If you own a 1966 Washington Quarter in bad condition, the first step is proper identification. Confirm the date, check that there is no mint mark, and examine the edge to verify the copper core. Avoid cleaning the coin, as cleaning almost always reduces collector value, even for already worn pieces. Store the coin in a simple coin flip or protective holder to prevent further damage. If you suspect an error or unusual feature, consider having the coin examined by an experienced collector or a professional grading service, especially if the error appears significant. For new collectors, damaged examples can be an affordable way to learn about US coinage history and build a foundational collection without high costs. In conclusion, the 1966 Washington Quarter with no mint mark, even in bad condition, holds an important place in American numismatic history. While it may not be rare or highly valuable in the traditional sense, it represents a turning point in US coin production, marking the move away from silver and into the modern clad era. Its auction market value is usually modest, often ranging from a few cents over face value to a couple of dollars, but its historical significance keeps it relevant among collectors. Whether you're a seasoned numismatist or just starting your journey, this coin serves as a reminder that every piece of currency has a story, and sometimes, that story is worth more than the coin itself. Next up, the 1965 Washington Quarter dollar with no mint mark, found in a black shade or heavily discolored condition. At first glance, a darkened or damaged coin like this may seem ordinary or even worthless, but in the world of coin collecting, appearances can be deceiving. This particular year marks a turning point in US coinage, and even examples in poor or blackened condition continue to spark interest among collectors. In this video, we will explore why the 1965 Washington quarter remains important, how its condition affects value, and what it can realistically bring at auction today in US dollars. The Washington quarter was first introduced in 1932 to honor the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. For decades, the coin was struck using a silver composition, making earlier quarters especially valuable. However, the year 1965 changed everything. Due to rising silver prices and widespread coin hoarding, the United States Mint officially removed silver from circulating quarters. The 1965 Washington quarter became the first regular-issue quarter made of a copper-nickel-clad composition instead of 90% silver. All 1965 quarters were produced without mint marks, regardless of where they were struck, as the mint temporarily removed mint marks to discourage hoarding. This historical transition makes the 1965 quarter a key date, even though millions were produced. The 1965 Washington quarter features John Flanagan's classic portrait of George Washington on the obverse, facing left, with the words "Liberty" and "In God We Trust" clearly visible. The reverse displays a heraldic eagle with outstretched wings, clutching arrows and olive branches, symbolizing strength and peace. What makes some examples stand out is their unusual appearance over time. In black shade condition, the coin may show heavy oxidation, environmental damage, chemical exposure, or long-term circulation wear. This darkened surface can give the coin a dramatic and almost antique look, which some collectors find intriguing. While this condition is considered damage, it can still add curiosity value, especially when the coin's details remain partially visible. In terms of mintage numbers, the 1965 Washington quarter is not rare, as hundreds of millions were struck. However, collector demand does not rely solely on low mintage. The historical significance of being the first clad quarter keeps interest alive. In black shade or damaged condition, these coins are not rare in the traditional sense, but they occupy a special niche in the market. Some collectors actively seek heavily toned, darkened, or environmentally damaged coins as conversation pieces or educational examples. Others value them as reminders of circulation history. While damaged coins are generally less desirable, unusual, or extreme discoloration can sometimes attract attention at auctions, particularly when described clearly and honestly. When it comes to auction and market value, a 1965 Washington quarter in black shade condition typically trades close to its face value of 25 cents. However, depending on the severity of the damage, eye appeal, and buyer interest, such coins can sell for around $123,000 in online marketplaces or small auctions. In rare cases, if the coin has dramatic toning, strong remaining details, or an interesting story behind its condition, it may fetch slightly more from a specialized collector. It is important to note that this coin does not contain silver, so its value is not tied to precious metal prices. Any premium above face value comes purely from collector curiosity and historical interest. For collectors considering a 1965 Washington quarter in black shade condition, there are several important tips to keep in mind. First, avoid cleaning the coin, as cleaning can further reduce its appeal and value. Second, examine the coin carefully to ensure the discoloration is not hiding severe corrosion that could cause the metal to deteriorate further. Third, store the coin properly in a dry, protective holder to prevent additional damage. Finally, if you plan to sell or auction the coin, be honest in your description and include clear photos. Transparency builds trust and can help attract the right buyer who appreciates coins in unusual conditions. In conclusion, the 1965 Washington quarter with no mint mark, even in black shade or damaged condition, remains an interesting and historically important coin. While it may not be a high-value treasure, it represents a major shift in US coinage and continues to capture the attention of collectors around the world. Its auction market value in dollars may be modest, but its story is rich, and its place in American monetary history is secure. Next up, the 1988 Washington quarter with the D mint mark, specifically in rusty condition. While it may not look pristine at first glance, this coin holds a unique place in the collector's market. Rust, discoloration, and wear can often tell a story about a coin's journey through time, and even in damaged condition, certain quarters like this one can attract significant attention from collectors and auction bidders alike. In this video, we'll explore the history, unique features, rarity, market value, and expert tips for collectors considering adding a 1988 D Washington quarter to their collection. The Washington quarter has been an iconic piece of US coinage since its introduction in 1932, commemorating the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. By 1988, The United States Mint was producing these quarters in massive quantities across multiple mints, including Denver, indicated by the D mint mark. The 1988 D quarter was part of the regular circulation coins, but over time, factors like handling, environmental exposure, and improper storage led many of these coins to develop rust or tarnish. While the coin is no longer a rare issue in uncirculated condition, its aged, rusty state tells a story that collectors sometimes find irresistible, especially when paired with other unique characteristics or errors. The 1988 D Washington quarter in rusty condition features the familiar profile of George Washington on the obverse, designed by John Flanagan, and the iconic eagle with outstretched wings on the reverse. What sets this coin apart, however, is not just its date or mint mark, but the natural patina and corrosion that have developed over decades. Rust on coins can create unusual textures, colors, and patterns, giving each piece a one-of-a-kind appearance. For some collectors, this accidental artistic effect adds historical depth and character, turning an otherwise common quarter into a collectible item with aesthetic and historical intrigue. While 1988 D Washington quarters are plentiful in general circulation, the demand for coins in rusty or damaged condition is surprisingly notable among niche collectors. Coins that exhibit distinctive rust patterns, unusual toning, or other environmental effects can sometimes fetch higher prices because they represent authentic signs of aging that cannot be artificially reproduced. Collectors who focus on coins with natural patinas or imperfect conditions often seek out these quarters to complete sets or highlight the diversity of circulated coins. The rarity, in this case, isn't about the number of coins minted but about finding those that have survived decades with unique, visually interesting wear patterns. The market value of a 1988 D Washington quarter in rusty condition varies depending on the severity of rust, legibility of the date and mint mark, and overall eye appeal. While a standard circulated 1988 D quarter might only be worth face value, a well-documented rusty example can attract collectors willing to pay a premium, typically ranging from $123,000 for moderate rust to $10 or more for coins with striking or visually appealing corrosion. On auction platforms like eBay, prices can fluctuate based on bidding competition and the uniqueness of the rust patterns, making it an interesting coin to track for potential investment or collection purposes. If you're considering adding a rusty 1988 D Washington quarter to your collection, there are several tips to keep in mind. First, always verify authenticity and the condition of the coin before purchasing. Rust can sometimes obscure key details like the date or mint mark. Second, avoid attempting to clean the rust yourself, as improper cleaning can drastically reduce the coin's value. Instead, consider storing it properly in a dry, protective environment to prevent further corrosion. Finally, research recent auction sales to understand the current market demand and pricing trends, which will help you make informed buying or selling decisions. In conclusion, the 1988 D Washington quarter in rusty condition is a unique example of how time and environment can transform an ordinary coin into a collectible piece with character and historical significance. While it may not rival rare silver or error coins in monetary value, its distinctive appearance, combined with a steady collector demand, makes it a fascinating addition to any coin enthusiast collection. Whether you are a seasoned collector or just starting out, appreciating the beauty and history behind coins like this one enriches your understanding of American numismatics and adds depth to your collection. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos exploring rare, unique, and historically significant coins.